Occasionally throughout the ages, champions of each race rise to the fore upon the galactic stage. These individuals often pursue their own ends under the guise of bettering their species' lot within an unforgiving, war-torn reality. Battlefields littered with the dead and dying, skulls stacked as altars so high as to be visible from orbit, planets whose entire populace disappear without a trace. So often our stories centre around events such as these, and rightly so. But bear in mind, to conduct these large-scale apocalyptic battles, individuals of truly ruthless temperament are required to make decisions which seal the fate of ally, enemy, and innocent alike. Even more so now than ever, the invisible hand of fate is swayed by the machinations of particular personalities, influencing repercussions on an even galactic scale. Their slightest whim spells doom for billions, whilst divisive plots range over millennia. Let's take a thematic wander down this lore trail whilst we discuss a few of the newer setting's characters, who by nature must maintain a ruthless, merciless demeanour. You may even be surprised at who appears throughout this video. Remember though, Titan Wargaming covers all new lore within 40k as it develops, so subscribing and enabling notifications is an excellent way to make sure this is delivered straight to your feed, ensuring you are always up to date with in-depth coverage. I'd love if we could build a community of 8,000 subs by Christmas Day, so I'd appreciate if you could consider this if you are learning or being entertained by our content. Yvrane's willingness to aid in the resurrection, as well as subsequent protection, of a reawakened Rebute Guilliman did indeed cement her name within recent lore annals as a particularly noteworthy contributor, though her story, and moreover her master plan, does not stop there. Nor do these machinations have the best interest of the Imperium's people at heart, of course. We know that many of the egotistical Lgendary view humanity as their greatest bulwark and even hope against the predations of the primordial annihilator, a truth that the astute Guilliman is aware of, and that the likes of Yvrane and even Eldrad of Ulthwé don't see sense in lying about. It is very plain to see. It has been this way since before Horus's treachery. But aside from contributing to invigorating the race of man with new, capable leadership, what sway does Yvrane currently hold within the ongoing 40k narrative? Ultimately, this almost unassuming character, though well developed as she is, could lead to a massive turn in events to influence all of 40k. Before I explain this almost outlandish claim as a precursor, please understand it is of course the meddling of Farseer Eldrad Ulthran which led to the resurgence of Iniad, Eldari god of the dead. It is true that Yvrane could be considered the leader of sorts for her people, the Inari, but make no mistake, the ancient Farseer Eldrad works the strings of fate akin to any puppeteer, and it would not be below him to ruthlessly be rid of the young prophetess, should her ambitions seek to muddy his own plans for his race, a fact that Yvrane is all too aware of. Traversing a galaxy that has been molested by war for uncounted millennia, Yvrane ultimately seeks to undermine the youngest chaos deity Slaanesh by directing her people's souls to Iniad. You see, when an Eldari perishes, if their soul is not caught by the psycho-reactive gem worn by all Craftworld Eldar called a Spirit Stone, then it will be consumed by Slaanesh in a fate far worse than death. It is perhaps the Craftworld Eldar's dearest, most important tradition that Spirit Stones containing a soul be fixed within their Craftworld's Wraithbone core, so the soul within is freed to traverse what is termed the Infinity Circuit, uniting with other souls existing forevermore in this etheric state. The controversy, if not sheer terror, which Yvrane's movement introduces to the Eldari people, is that she proposes Iniad, the Eldari god of the dead, currently exists within a nascent state, though it grows stronger with every soul introduced to a Craftworld's Infinity Circuit. For your aid, citizen, consider this similar but not akin to humanity's belief in the Emperor strengthening his presence within the Immaterium, or the Tau Empire's human auxiliaries' fervent belief in the greater good, creating a Tau deity also within the Immaterium. You see, Iniad's strength too grows. However, rather than the power of worship or belief fueling its growth, the souls of the dead fulfill the same purpose. It has been foreseen by Eldrad and his allies through their scrying that once the last Lgendary has died, Iniad will at last be born, made mighty by the soul essence of its people, and so striking down the Dark Prince Slaanesh forevermore. This is said to occur during the Runadundra, the Eldar mythos' fated last battle against Chaos, in which all their people will be slain. So you see a great deal of the Eldari species, not only the Craftworld kin, but also Exodites, Harlequins and Drukhari, gather under Ivrain's banner, intent to hasten the birth of Iniad, for to defeat Slaanesh would free their people forevermore from that ancient dread. What is perplexing though, is just what part mankind play within this scenario, for it is said humanity is vital to the survival of their race, at least for the time being. Has Eldrad foreseen within the final showdown against Chaos that the Imperium or even a mighty human champion will aid the Eldari during the Runadundra? Or does this Runadundra exist as a parallel portent to Fenris' own retelling of the final days, the Wolf Time? Is Leman Russ's return the great contribution Eldrad waits for? Only time will tell. Ivrain in the meantime will play her part in an attempt to bring about Iniad's birth. Apart from the fact Ivrain must not only bring about the deaths of her entire species to achieve these ends, the question is, dear listener, how long will she allow herself to be used in this way? And when she makes her own move, will it be at the cost of all she has strived to achieve under the Inari banner? It is no new matter that the Silent King Zarak has once again returned to the Milky Way galaxy. Given his overarching plan to reverse the ill-fated biotransference of his people's souls into the metallic shells they now inhabit, he is concerned the Great Devourer may consume mankind before he himself can claim them for his people. You see, to undo what was a horrible mistake eons past, the Silent King, alongside many of his united satrapies, intend to transfer what remains of the Necron-tier soul into human hosts. Of course, there are numerous issues with this, such as whether the actual outcome is what the Silent King envisions, but Necron ingenuity is nothing if not advanced beyond the ken of mere mortals. Apart from his planned galactic-sized genocide, the Silent King strives now to reconstruct the Necron pylon network destroyed by both Abaddon, as well as numerous ignorant races over the eons. As Belisarius has recently warned his peers of Forge Worlds Metallica, Akatran and Tigris, it is within their best combined interest to shear up the warp breach, which is the Great Rift, before the Silent King is able to. For were this ancient overlord to succeed in such a grand, complex task, it is foolhardy to assume that same process would not damn humanity. Our recently released vidlog called Genefather details the new lore surrounding the efforts of both Belisarius Cawl and his now rival, the twisted geneticist Fabius Bile. We discover that the most recent intentions of Archmagos Belisarius Cawl are indeed capable of mending the very fabric of reality. You see, and spoilers for those who are yet to read Genefather, the Archmagos intends to close the Great Rift itself. How, you ask? Surely such a task is truly beyond the realms of possibility. Now the Eye of Terror forms an ugly gash from one side of the galaxy to the other. In actuality, his plan might work. Because basically, it has before. In a way. Ultimately, Cawl wishes to reconstitute the ancient Necron pylon network throughout the galaxy, previously put into place by the Necron tier, dozens if not hundreds of worlds which contain these alien constructs worked in harmony with one another to keep at bay the gushing wound in reality. This is all well and good, though the quirky Archmagos must first, along with the help of allied Forge worlds, fetch a control system capable of integrating with the Necron Pylon technology to properly shrink or close the rift. There is an immense hurdle which must first be planned for, and that is the unfortunate location of this control system. You see, this technology is currently trapped within the influence of a black hole called Caligan's Maw, located far to the south of Imperium Sanctus. Not only this, keep a wary ear out for any new developments regarding this storyline, for Belisarius supposes this doomed planet has experienced next to no passage of time since the calamity which destroyed the system's star, meaning the species, as well as technology upon the surface of that planet, could in fact be preserved from the time of the war in heaven. Call, being the enterprising personality he is, has even considered numerous other applications for Blackstone, or Noctilith as it is also known. These include robbing psychers of their unnatural gifts, erasing demons from existence, or even limiting the amount of psychic births throughout mankind's domain, something we know has become ever more prevalent given the increase in warp tides invisibly flooding the galaxy, pouring out from the Great Rift. I, for one, am very excited to discover Archmagos Call's next adventures. Whilst on the subject of the brilliant Archmagos, it must be said that perhaps Call's greatest ally, the Avenging Sun himself, plays an ever-changing deadly game of 4D chess against not only the Chaos Pantheon, but almost equally pressing, the Great Devourer. We have detailed the threat posed to Terra by the most recent ingress by High Fleet Leviathan within this video, a link of which can be found in the description below. As the Hive Fleet's living vessels absorb mankind's worlds, they have been successful in piercing the Imperium's defences in Segmentum Pacificus, and now, as a result, are capable of making a concerted push towards the very cradle world of humanity itself, and home of the Emperor's Astronomicon, Terra. And so, as the 41st millennium transitions into its twilight years, there have never been more pressing, urgent matters vying for an Imperial Regent's attention since the initial years of the Emperor's Great Crusade and subsequent Horus Heresy. Perhaps it is this fact then which led to Guilliman's most recent demands to Belisarius within the novel Genefather. You see, Guilliman has instructed the Archmagos to urgently manufacture an army of Primaris to fuel the Lord Regent's push into Imperium Nihilus. Guilliman has even stated he does not care how Belisarius achieves this, only that it is completed with the utmost haste. In a galaxy haunted by infernal beings, the light of the god Emperor waning, decisions 100 times harder than the separation of young men from their families for mass recruitment drives must be made daily. Meanwhile, the forces of chaos absorb the few beacon worlds of Imperium Sanctus which border the Great Rift, whilst Guilliman's efforts against these malefic armies is drawn away to yet even more pressing concerns, for to lose Terra itself, his father, and the Astronomicon would effectively spell doom for mankind. That much is certain. Perhaps then it is fate or some divine hand which has awoken Guilliman's brother, the Lion, in time for aid to be proffered between Primarch brothers. Whilst the two have not formally been reunited, surely the day draws close. What a cruel joke it would be if the forces of the arch-enemy, or some other, delayed or even ceased that unification from occurring. For surely, just as the forces of Slaanesh seek to undermine and slaughter the followers of Inead, the corrupted Primarchs too see the value in defeating their awakened brothers before a united front can be established between arguably the two greatest strategists to still exist. As we have experienced recently in Genefather, again, spoilers for those not wanting to hear, Guilliman bids Call create as many Primaris Marines as possible to fuel a concerted push into Nihilus and subsequent reinforcement of the depleted Space Marine chapters standing vigil within the darkness of that forsaken space. When last the calculating Vastor was seen, it was successfully departing a battlefield littered by slaughtered Astartes and Neverborn alike. Having moulded the shattered remnants of Caliban into a profane, void-capable travesty, Vastor parted ways with the Lion and Dante of the Blood Angels, jumping into a sub-dimension in search of a vault which houses a weapon crafted by the Old Ones themselves. Of course, it is not assured the Archifane, he who aspires to godhood, will be successful in opening or even locating this ancient cache, though I'm sure all denizens of the Milky Way galaxy would prefer he didn't. Surely, now the plot is set, the likes of Lionel Johnson, Azrael, and Dante will take it upon themselves to pursue the Archifane, though that particular Imperial alliance could lead to further infighting in itself. As we know, Primarch of the First Legion, the Lion, has, in an altogether unforeseen evolution of character, forgiven select fallen Dark Angels, allowing them once more within his armies if they would in turn have him. They are called the Risen. This will not bode well for the integration of the Lion back into the Unforgiven chapters, for, as we know, the Dark Angels, as well as their successor chapters' main focus since the heresy, has been the hunting, interrogation, and subsequent execution of said fallen. Likewise, I imagine, the Risen, as these fallen are now known, will undoubtedly take issue with their fellows' past persecution. Time will tell how the ongoing narrative between the Archifane, the Lion, Azrael, and Dante develops, though with so many subplots, including Dante's previous appointment of Regent of Imperium Nihilus, this host of personalities has a lot to offer a lore-hungry audience. Before we discuss the new lore and schemes surrounding perhaps the setting's most prevalent anarchist or agent of disorder, we will touch on the actions of Abaddon the Despoiler in the way of which he seeks to further his own ambitions, now he has crushed the forces holding at bay the Great Rift. Before we begin, be aware that, following our Agents of Disorder brief, we will, in a few minutes, cover some characters who have the pre-existing narrative to be introduced into the lore on a larger, more prevalent scale than they are currently. There are two Chaos personalities I believe you may even agree have the potential to upset the Despoiler's plans. For their own ends, of course. We know that Abaddon has instigated the greatest divide throughout the material realm since the birth of Slaanesh. Though his most recent actions have been primarily the alliance between Black Legion and the minions of Vastor, we know there are numerous ways the Despoiler is able to push against the Imperium, though which one he chooses remains to be seen. Abaddon has the ability to cement his holdings within Imperium Nihilus, ensuring he has a well-constructed logistics framework to launch into Imperium Sanctus. Alternatively, he may have already worked towards these ends, in which case a concerted push into Sanctus, whilst the Primarch Rebute is addressing the Tyrannid Leviathan threat, could deliver him an advantage against the Imperium. This would stretch Imperial military assets to address the main threats within Segmentum Solar against both the Warmaster and High Fleet Leviathan. The wild card we have yet to see in all this is whether the Lion's forces, especially with his Forest Walk ability, decide to mount a decisive, even decapitating strike against Abaddon. Let me know what you believe Abaddon's true plans are, and whether you'd like to see a showdown between him and either Rebute or the Lion. The fallen angel known only as Cypher recently has made his presence felt on the throne world itself, almost gaining entrance to the Emperor's inner sanctum before being halted by the reanimated corpse of a Custodes warden named Hikaron. Acting through Hikaron, the Emperor would inform Cypher it was not yet time. Whether Cypher had intended to beg the Emperor's forgiveness or slay him is unknown. What we do know is that the Custodian Guard within the Imperial Palace do do know that the Warden was acting on behalf of the Emperor, a mystery his dearest companions intend to investigate further. You can find out more in-depth information regarding this specific story in our 2-part video titled Cypher on Terror. Now, there are a number of theories regarding Cypher's plans for the Emperor, but one thing that is interesting is both he and the Lord of the Thousand Eyes within the recent Lion Son of the Forest novel seem to both have plans at resurrecting the Emperor. Keep in mind, they are both fallen Dark Angels. Let me know your speculation about what Cypher has been planning and where he has left to from Terra. Do you think he will seek out the Lion now that Fallen are finding forgiveness and being allowed to fight under the Imperium's banner once more? There exists an immense amount of character as well as narratives able to be explored and fleshed out further at the Whim of Games workshop when they believe the time is right. It did not pass my attention, however, that the comments section of our last video was abound with negative opinions regarding the accomplishments of Abaddon the Despoiler. As has been the case for some years now, it seems the general dislike for the Warmaster of Chaos still persists. So let us quickly break down a couple of characters who could address this issue while simultaneously challenging him. It occurs to me, and of course I may be wrong, that the main reason Abaddon the Despoiler is labelled a Mary Sue or possessing an extreme degree of plot armour, besides past retcons concerning his Black Crusades, is that there exists a lack of worthy, high-achieving Chaos characters to compare Abaddon to. That, and I suspect there are a lot of people who haven't yet had the pleasure of reading the Black Legion novels, 2 novels in which we receive a much more intimate exploration of Abaddon's character. So consider the Imperium for a moment. Its wide cast of in-depth characters give meaning and even stakes to their own personal victories or failures. Within the Chaos factions, this is sorely lacking, as Abaddon has historically been the sole character forging an updated Chaos narrative. To alleviate some of this weight from Abaddon, opening the way for a more varied cast of meaningful personalities, I suggest exploring Huron Blackheart, as well as Aaron Dembski-Bowden's Night Lord Prophet, named Decimus. But how does this work in with our current video's theme of noteworthy characters forging new narratives within the most up-to-date lore? Well, as Abaddon's time in the sun seems to be waning in the eyes of the wider 40k audience, the premier threat posed against mankind needs powerful, deep characters to commit atrocities on magnificent scales, much to the detriment of the Imperium. I think most of us could agree Blackheart and Decimus both are excellent candidates for this task. Both are noteworthy characters who owe no allegiance to one particular Chaos deity, nor do they lack ambition, an especially important trait if one is to rise in the esteem of their peers and enemies alike within the various Chaos sub-factions. Huron Blackheart's Red Corsairs are already noted to have been raiding as well as enslaving the White Scar's home system of Yasan, whilst Decimus is on a mission to unite the Night Haunter's fractured legion. Huron, though no chosen one, is an extremely capable commander, but not only regarding military matters. Don't forget he was the tyrant of Badab, chapter master of the once loyal Astral Claws. Under his strict leadership, the Maelstrom Zone, traditionally an unstable area of space wrought with pirates and renegades, was pacified, becoming a well-fortified, even prosperous territory. Not only that, his forces were able to withstand Imperial retribution for over a decade. The efforts of allied Astartes chapters, paired with well-drilled PDF forces, dubbed the Tyrant's Legion, working in sync to achieve amazing victories. No longer under the Imperial yoke, Huron's domains have expanded, his piratical Red Corsairs gaining much influence and power. To top it off, though he and Abaddon have at times made pacts of convenience with one another, they are by no means allies, with Huron likely planning to one day usurp the title of Warmaster from Abaddon, as we see in the novel Pandorax. Decimus, on the other hand, requires considerably more fleshing out, as the only time he is ever mentioned is at the very end of the Night Lord's trilogy, wherein he is attempting to unite the Night Lord's Legion once more. It is discovered this takes place as Abaddon draws warbands to him to embark upon the 13th Black Crusade, so at least the timeline is relevant to introduce Decimus into the current setting, besides wreaking anarchy while sowing fear. A reunified Night Lord's Legion would pose a significant threat to the already weakened Imperium. Beset on all sides, a concerted push by ancient terror troops such as the Night Lords could potentially be the straw that breaks the morale across entire systems. It is suspected that the Wolf King himself, Leman Russ, will return to the Imperium at the hour of its greatest need, the Wolf Time, a remarkably similar mythos to the Eldari Rana Dundra, in which all Phoenix Lords will unite against the primordial Annihilator before the entire Eldar species is slain, which, according to our current timeline, could result in the birth of the God of Death. As far as spoilers and the hobby are concerned, there has definitely been plenty of talk regarding Leman Russ's return being the next slated release. Watch this space, but make sure to share your thoughts with our community in the comments below or on the Discord channel. Considering this end of days prophecy, do you believe they're connected to a potential rebirth of the Emperor of Mankind? It is said the Emperor has truly ascended to godhood, all shred of his humanity lost prior to his final showdown with Horus, leaving him a truly cold being of logic and pure purpose. Now, I may just be too suspicious, but I can't help but wonder whether Games Workshop is advancing the plot to a massive 40k reset. Do you believe the narrative will continue indefinitely, with the Great Rift dividing the galaxy, and the Emperor slowly being awakened? Or within the next few years, will we see major lore changes in the direction of some long-awaited showdowns, such as the Necron's pylon network and mass biotransference, the Tyranids as well as Abaddon's push on Segmentum Solar, Guilliman and the Lion's reunification, which could undermine the Ecclesiarchy's power? Let me know. As we've seen, characters within the Heresy series have been making a comeback within 40k. Characters such as the Lion, Guilliman, Demon Primarchs, Sigismund, Abaddon, Ahriman, Constantine Valdor, and now the Emperor. With 40k and 30k novels being released simultaneously, this I guess is purposeful to flesh out character development and in turn create narratives which span over millennia. Narratives such as the King in Yellow from the Inquisitor series, the Black Legion novels, of which there's word the first 3 may be followed by others, the Emperor's character development in 30k, contrasting him to the being he has become in the current timeline, Guilliman, the Lion. It's a great time to be within a passionate lore community, making fun videos for you all to enjoy. Ultimately, mankind has stared back into the eyes of whichever new enemy threatens to tear their empire apart. Lasgun in hand, a defiant chant on their lips, for any who dare seek to topple the Imperium of Man. Good luck. Now guys, Gap Games have 21% off 40k. You don't need to enter in a special code or anything like that. It's just the service that Brett and the team provide. If you check out the site via the link in the description, then it will automatically let the team know you visited through Titan Wargaming, and will entitle the channel to a percentage of any web sales. It's an excellent way to support a local business and Titan Wargaming. We're trying to build the community out to 8k by Christmas, so if you found this interesting or learnt something new, bash that sub and notification button, guys. As you may know, I've also created a Patreon recently, as I feel it's a great way to take a step back from the 6 to 4 and enable me to make content more often through the week, so we can enjoy more than just one full-length video weekly. Feel free to check out the link in the description so you can see what comes with each tier. I did a lot of research into what people in the community offer, and personally I feel there's great value in what's offered in our Patreon. Thanks so much for tuning in, I really appreciate it guys. Until next week, take it easy and have a good one.